Think about the last time you ran to the store. Maybe you grabbed a box of Kleenex, a bag of rice, or like hoisted this giant bag of dog food into your cart.
Right, the usual errands.
Exactly. And the fact that those items are just sitting there, waiting for you on the shelf, it's honestly a logistical miracle.
It really is. It's this beautifully choreographed global dance of manufacturing and shipping and warehousing that, most of us completely take for granted.
Totally. But here is the secret, hidden in the source material we are unpacking today. Behind the scenes, that beautifully choreographed dance is, well, it's actually incredibly chaotic.
Oh, absolutely chaotic.
Yeah, and it is bleeding massive amounts of money, and it's bleeding carbon emissions. And it really all comes down to this multi-million-dollar gap between supply chain planning and supply chain execution.
Right, because the systems that plan where goods need to go, they're fundamentally disconnected from the physical reality of how those can actually get there.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission for today's deep dive is to look at how a supply chain technology company called Provision.I is using advanced artificial intelligence to mend this massive gap.
And it is a massive gap.
Huge.
Yeah.
We are looking at a deep stack of sources today. We've got industry interviews, Gartner Symposium notes, and these incredibly detailed case studies from heavyweights like Kimberly-Clark, Unilever, and Rivian Foods.
Yeah, some really big names in there.
So we are going to explore two specific tools they use, LevelLoad and AutoO2, to see how they are turning this whole problem around.
Well, to really understand the solution, we have to look at the invisible crisis happening on corporate loading docks right now.
Right.
The core problem here is silos. In most major corporations, the planning department and the operations department, they might as well be speaking entirely different languages.
Because they're using different systems, right?
Exactly. The planners use highly sophisticated advanced planning systems, or APS for short. And these systems forecast consumer demand and generate orders. But historically, because computing power used to be so expensive, these systems were built to focus purely on inventory.
So they operate in, a theoretical world.
Very theoretical. They calculate what product is needed, but they just assume there is an infinite number of trucks available at a moment's notice to move it, and infinite warehouse space to receive it.
Which obviously completely ignores the laws of physics.
Right.
Because operations, the execution side, they actually have to deal with reality. They have a finite number of loading docks, a set number of forklift drivers, and, carrier networks that only have so many trucks in a specific region on any given day.
Yeah, there are hard limits.
There's actually a quote in our sources from a Fortune 50 VP of Transportation that I think perfectly captures how absurd this gets.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, they said, "We ship at a premium cost a product that may not be needed from sites that may have difficulty shipping it to sites that struggle to receive it."
That is just a painful admission from someone at the very top of the industry.
It really is.
And it leads to this destructive phenomenon that the industry calls order bunching.
Order bunching. Okay,
Okay.
break that down for us.
So because the planning systems aren't considering physical constraints, they might look at the inventory and say, okay, ship 3 truckloads on Sunday.
Right, which sounds manageable.
Very manageable. Sunday is a breeze. But then, based purely on mathematical demand forecasts for later in the week, the system says, ship 24 truckloads on Tuesday over the exact same route to the exact same warehouse.
Oh, wow. That is a massive bottleneck.
It's a total nightmare.
It's kind of like using Waze to plan the mathematically fastest road trip across the country, right?
Okay, yeah.
But the app completely ignores the fact that your car is almost out of gas,
Right.
and every single gas station on that specific route is closed.
That is a great analogy.
The plan is perfect on paper, but it's physically impossible to execute.
Right. And the fallout from that impossible plan hits everyone. The warehouse manager doesn't have the staff to unload 24 trucks in one day.
So the trucks just sit there.
Exactly. They end up sitting in the yard, incurring massive detention fees. But it's also a nightmare for the transportation team. Their preferred low-cost freight carriers might only be able to provide, say, 5 trucks on a Tuesday.
So what do they do about the other 19 loads?
Well, they have to scramble to the spot market. They end up hiring these expensive non-contracted carriers at the very last minute just to satisfy the planning system's arbitrary deadline.
Just burning money. And the inefficiency, it isn't just about the sheer number of trucks. It's about what is physically inside them.
Oh, the underloading issue?
Yes. The Georgia Way Station study in our sources It actually blew my mind.
It's pretty staggering data.
Yeah, they analyzed over 150,000 trucks moving through weigh stations, and they found that over 10% of them were underloaded by 2,000 pounds or more.
Which is insane. They're literally paying premium spot market rates to ship air.
Literally air. And why? Because of that severe disconnect between planning and execution. Companies are just rushing half-empty trucks onto the highway.
Yeah, the operations team is just trying to clear the dock and meet the system's demands, so they just throw whatever they have into a trailer and send it off, wasting fuel and capacity.
So if the root cause is this planning system hallucinating infinite resources, the fix has to inject physical reality back into the math before the shipments are ever booked, right?
Exactly. And that is where ProvisionA's LevelLoad comes in. The sources describe it as an intelligent, prescriptive digital twin of the entire supply chain network.
A digital twin. So how does that work in practice?
Well, instead of just reacting to today's chaotic orders, LevelLoad looks 30 to 60 days into the future.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It ingests data from the planning systems, the warehouse management systems, and the transportation systems, and it maps out the strict physical constraints of every single site.
So it knows the actual limits.
Exactly. It knows exactly how many trucks Memphis can load in a single day and exactly how much floor space Los Angeles has available next month.
And then it smooths the network out. Like if it sees that massive 24 truck spike coming on a Tuesday, 3 weeks from now, it intervenes mathematically.
Yes, it pulls some of that high priority volume forward to Sunday and Monday when there is excess capacity, and it pushes the lower priority items back to Wednesday.
Okay, so it levels the load. That makes sense. But to make this actually work in the real world, you have to navigate the freight booking process.
Right, which is its own beast.
Because to get the best rates and guarantee you actually have a truck show up, you need to book your preferred carriers days or even weeks in advance.
You do.
And here's where I have to push back a little on the sources, because this seems incredibly risky to me.
How so?
Well, if you book a truck 20 days in advance based on a 30-day forecast, how do you know what inventory you will actually need by the time the truck finally arrives at the dock?
Right, because things change.
Exactly. Consumer demand shifts wildly. You might end up shipping thousands of boxes of product you no longer need, while a critical shortage happens somewhere else in the country.
That risk is exactly why legacy systems fail at long-term planning. But ProvisionI solves this using a really fascinating postponement strategy, specifically utilizing what they call a dummy code.
A dummy code.
Yeah. LevelLoad tells the transportation system to reserve the truck with a preferred carrier 20 days in advance. But it uses a placeholder item code for the freight.
Oh, I see.
The carrier doesn't care exactly what specific boxes are in the back of the trailer. They just need the guaranteed revenue of driving from point A to point B on a specific date.
So essentially, you are securing the real estate on the truck first and deciding what furniture goes in the room later. You lock in the cheap rate.
That's a perfect way to put it. The actual final inventory isn't assigned to that specific truck until right before it is time to physically load it.
That's brilliant.
By postponing the contents of the shipment until the last possible second, you ensure you are always shipping exactly what the network needs most on that specific day without sacrificing the cheap early booking freight rate.
So you get the cost benefits of long-term planning with the agility of real-time execution.
Exactly.
And we see a perfect example of this with Kimberly-Clark in the sources. The makers of Huggies and Kleenex, they rolled this out across their entire North American operation in an initiative called Project Earl.
Right. And the results were staggering. They reduced their daily shipment variability by an astounding 60%.
60%. I mean,
Right.
for a warehouse manager, reducing variability by that much is life-changing.
Oh, absolutely. It means an end to mandatory surprise over time, an end to scrambling for extra forklifts, and a return to predictable, manageable shifts.
They also improved their load fill by 3%, which, at their massive scale translates to huge savings.
Yeah.
And because they were using that dummy code trick to book early, they hit a 97% first tender acceptance rate, meaning 97% of the time, their preferred low-cost carrier happily accepted the job.
They turned a chaotic, reactive network into a smooth, predictable machine, saving millions annually.
But, solving the calendar puzzle and getting the cheap truck to the dock on the right day is a massive victory, sure. But a cheap truck is useless if you load it like an amateur.
Very true. Which brings us to the micro-optimization side of the equation.
Right, the literal physics of the trailer.
Yeah. You might look at a 53-foot trailer and think, just stack the pallets until it hits the roof.
It seems simple enough.
But the sources show that legacy load-building software is leaving up to 10% of a company's profit margin just sitting empty inside those trailers.
Why is that? What's wrong with the old software?
The problem with those legacy load builders, the systems companies have relied on for decades, is that they use simple sequential algebra.
Sequential, meaning they do it step by step.
Exactly. They look at a truck and check the constraints one by one. First, they check the 45,000-pound weight limit. Then they check the cubic space. Then the pallet positions.
Okay.
As soon as they hit a mathematically compliant load, meaning it doesn't break any basic rules, the software just stops thinking.
So it finds the first available answer and says, good enough, leaving all that empty space at the top or the back of the trailer.
Exactly. But Provisioneye's Auto-O2 tool approaches this entirely differently. The sources mention it uses a blend of operations research, heuristics, and reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement learning, that's a type of AI, right?
Yes. To demystify that a bit, it means Auto-O2 isn't just following rigid if-then programming. Reinforcement learning learns by doing.
So it gets better over time.
Right. It was trained on millions of historical simulated load scenarios, constantly trying to pack a slightly tighter trailer without breaking any rules and learning from its failures.
Wow.
So instead of solving one rule at a time sequentially, Auto-O2 evaluates over 300 different physical constraints simultaneously.
300. Because loading a truck safely involves incredible complexities. Like product strength is a major one.
Oh, definitely.
You cannot stack a pallet of heavy bricks on top of a pallet of fragile eggs. Crushed eggs don't sell.
No, they do not. And you also have strict segregation rules.
Right.
You legally and safely cannot put dog food right next to industrial laundry detergent. The smells and chemicals will cross-contaminate during transit.
Gross. So it is doing 3D spatial Tetris while considering the chemical makeup and crush weight of the products.
Yes.
And the state laws factor in as well. California's 40-foot kingpin law is a perfect example of this in the sources.
Oh, that's a tricky one.
Yeah. In California, the rearmost axle of a semi-trailer cannot be more than 40 feet from the kingpin. And the kingpin is the pivot point where the trailer connects to the truck.
Right, and when you push that rear axle forward to comply with that 40-foot rule, it completely changes the physics of the trailer.
How so?
It acts like a seesaw, throwing a massive amount of weight forward onto the rear tandem axles.
Oh, I see.
So, if a legacy sequential system just calculated the total weight of the truck, it would say the load is perfectly fine. But the moment that truck hits a weigh station in California, that specific axle is overweight.
And then they get fined.
A massive fine. Or worse, the driver is forced to pull over and literally unload product onto the side of the highway until the axle is legal.
That is insane. But Auto-O2 calculates that exact axle weight distribution mathematically, simultaneously with the other 300 constraints, ensuring the truck is legally compliant in every state it drives through, while still packing it to the absolute maximum cubic inch.
Exactly.
And what I find fascinating is how solving that extreme micro problem on the loading dock actually creates massive macro business opportunities.
Like the Procter & Gamble case study.
Yes, the P&G ripple effect. They used Auto-O2, and the AI made their truck loading so incredibly precise and repeatable that it actually allowed them to change their corporate sales terms.
Which is wild because in the corporate world, sales usually dictates terms to the supply chain, not the other way around. But because P&G knew exactly what constituted a perfectly full, mathematically optimal truck, they went to their customers and said, if you want our absolute best pricing, you have to order this slightly higher minimum amount because we now know exactly how to fit it safely in the trailer.
And because the loading instructions generated by the AI were flawless, P&G didn't have to worry about the warehouse workers being unable to physically fit those new, larger orders into the trucks.
It generated global freight savings just by mathematically raising the floor of what a full order was.
It's so smart. But all this boardroom math and AI optimization is revolutionary, sure.
Yeah.
But we have to ask how this translates to the human beings actually doing the heavy lifting.
Right, the warehouse teams.
Yeah. Doesn't an AI dictating exact pallet placement strip the human expertise out of the warehouse entirely?
You know, I wondered the exact same thing when reading the Riviana Foods case study.
They are America's largest rice producer, right? out of Memphis.
That's them. And they had a classic physical constraint problem, shipping mixed weight products. They ship massive, heavy 20-pound family bags of rice alongside incredibly light, single-serve, microwavable rice cups.
So you have a huge weight disparity.
Huge. If a forklift driver just starts loading those heavy bags of rice first, the truck is going to weigh out, meaning it hits its legal 45,000-pound limit long before the trailer is physically full of pallets.
So you end up shipping a truck that has tons of empty space above the pallets, but is legally as heavy as it can be.
Exactly. To avoid that, the warehouse relies on years of tribal knowledge.
Like just the experienced guys on the floor?
Right. Only the veteran forklift drivers knew exactly how to intricately mix the heavy bags and the light cups to max out the physical space and the weight limit simultaneously while keeping the axles perfectly legal.
But when those veterans retire, or when you bring on temporary seasonal workers during a rush, that knowledge just vanishes.
It's gone. And that is why Riviana brought in AutoO2. The AI handles the brutal math of the 300 constraints, and then it generates a simple 3D visual diagram on a screen for the forklift driver.
It's like an interactive IKEA instruction manual for loading a semi-truck.
That's exactly what it looks like. It highlights exactly which pallet to grab next and shows exactly where to place it in the trailer.
And the results for Riviana were massive. They saved over $1 million on a single shipping lane alone.
Incredible.
But to your point about a human element, the most impactful stat for the warehouse management was that they cut new loader training time by 75%.
See, rather than stripping away human value, it democratizes the expertise.
I love that.
The knowledge is embedded in the software, not just locked in the heads of a few veteran workers. A brand new hire can be loading perfectly optimized, axle-legal, mixed-weight trucks on day one just by following the 3D screen.
Which massively reduces the stress and friction on the warehouse floor.
Absolutely.
So we've talked extensively about the financial wins. Millions saved for Kimberly-Clark, Riviana, and P&G. But there is another color of green in these sources that we really need to highlight.
The environmental impact.
Yes. The final case study focuses on Unilever, the global consumer goods giant. They deployed this technology to push their truck utilization up to 98%, up from a baseline of around 90 to 95%.
And when a company the size of Unilever is shipping hundreds of loads every single day, closing a 3 to 8% efficiency gap is a monumental shift in operations.
It really is. Unilever's head of logistics for North America, Giovanni Dalbon, he has a quote in the sources that frames this perfectly. He said, "Efficiency and sustainability are not in conflict."
That is so true. For a company like Unilever, hitting their Scope 3 emission targets isn't just a PR exercise. It is a strict corporate mandate.
And for those unfamiliar, Scope 3 emissions are the indirect greenhouse gases produced up and down a company's value chain, right? Like the emissions from the third-party trucks hired to move their products.
Exactly. They are notoriously difficult to control because the company doesn't actually own the trucks.
Right. In the supply chain, the absolute most environmentally friendly thing you can do is simply put more product on every single truck.
Simple as that.
Every load packed tighter by AutoO2 means fewer total trucks are required to move the same amount of goods.
And when LevelLoad smooths the network out 30 days in advance, you prevent carriers from driving empty trucks hundreds of miles just to handle a sudden, unpredictable Tuesday demand spike.
Oh, right. Those empty trips, they're called deadhead miles, and they are devastating for carbon emissions.
They really are. The sources actually provide the aggregate math across all of Provisionized clients, and the scale is difficult to wrap your head around.
Lay it on us.
By optimizing the physical loads and smoothing the network, this combined technology actively removes 88,000 truck journeys from the highway every single year.
88,000. That eliminates 285,000 tons of Scope 3 CO2 emissions annually.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, that is equivalent to the carbon sequestered by 4,675 acres of mature U.S. forest every year.
The advanced AI isn't just padding the bottom line. It is a critical lever for hitting serious global climate goals.
When you optimize the math, the planet wins alongside the balance sheet.
Exactly.
Well, let's synthesize the journey we've been on today. We started by looking at a broken, siloed system where planners made mathematically impossible demands and operations scrambled to fulfill them, wasting millions of dollars and burning unnecessary fuel in the process.
Right.
We've seen how mending that gap requires a dual approach. You need LevelLoad, acting as the macro digital twin, looking 30 days into the future, smoothing out the order bunching, and using the postponement dummy code to lock in preferred carriers early.
And simultaneously, you need Auto 2 handling the microphysics of the trailer in real time. It uses reinforcement learning to solve 300 simultaneous constraints, ensuring you aren't crushing fragile products, keeping the axles legal for the California Highway Patrol, and giving the forklift driver a perfect 3D map to execute the plan flawlessly.
By letting AI handle this mind-bending math, human workers are freed from the stress of chaotic spikes, companies save millions, and the environment is spared hundreds of thousands of tons of emissions.
It is a rare alignment of operational efficiency, financial savings, and sustainability.
So, for you listening, the next time you're driving down the highway and you pass a massive, fully loaded semi-truck, I want you to look at it differently.
Yeah, pay attention.
You aren't just looking at a metal box full of goods. You are likely looking at a highly complex 3D AI Tetris puzzle, perfectly balanced, mathematically optimized, and moving at 55 miles an hour to get your Kleenex and dog food to the shelf.
It fundamentally changes how you view the infrastructure around you.
It really does.
And, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've just explored how agentic AI can successfully predict, orchestrate, and perfectly optimize the chaotic physical constraints of massive corporate supply chains 30 days in advance.
Right.
If these digital twin principles work so flawlessly for multi-billion-dollar, highly unpredictable global logistics networks, well, how long until we apply these exact same agentic AI tools to optimize our own chaotic personal schedules, our household budgets, and the daily logistics of our own lives?
Man, a prescriptive digital twin optimizing the chaos of my own week. That is a wild thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.